What's going on, Comicbook.com? I'm Jim Viscardi, and we are still here at Comic-Con 2022, and in the studio, I have two bona fide legends, Neil Gaiman, Allan Heinberg. We're going to hear to talk about Sandman today, and I could not be more excited. I watched the series twice so far already, and one of the things that I needed to ask was, the casting in this show is so good. How important was it for you guys when putting the cast together to make sure that you guys felt like you nailed it?
It was the biggest thing at all stages. And, it began with casting Dream. Tom Sturridge, I actually went back and looked at my emails from Lucinda Sison, our astonishing casting director. And Tom Sturridge was in the first email that she sent. There were 4 people, and Tom was one of them. And we watched them, and it was obvious that Tom had made our shortlist. And I assumed there would be another dozen like him in a few weeks. And instead, we watched first tens and then hundreds of auditions for Morpheus, and Tom remained our Morpheus, and that was amazing.
Sure.
For me, but it was like that with everybody. Lucinda would find astonishing actors, and bear in mind that we were very limited in our pool because COVID, and because traveling people around the world and flying them to England was difficult. So a lot of the time we were looking at who is in the UK. That was
fair. It
was kind of our bottom line. But also we had the gods with us in that, Mason Alexander Park reached out to me on Twitter. And while lots of people reach out on Twitter and say, hey, cast me as this or whatever, there was something about Mason's, it was something about the professionalism of the tweet, because instead of going, cast me, Mason said, have you cast Desire yet? Who is the casting director?
Oh.
And I sent a thing back saying it's Lucinda Sison. And then I was intrigued and went and looked at Mason's YouTube videos, and then sent the link over to Alan and said, look at them. I think we may have found our Desire.
I use Volume 1 of Sandman as basically like a gateway for fans looking to get into comics or things like that. And I, in watching this, love the the show really feels like the book. And you've been sharing some photos and stuff on Twitter where some of the shots, ripped right from the pages. Can you talk a bit about the decision to really, kind of keep to the original text and how you go about adapting that?
Well, I was a huge Sandman fan for decades before the opportunity to do this came around, and so as the David and Neil had been working on bringing this to streaming for a while before I got on board, so I had a very I'm a very possessive fan. And I really wanted to make the show that I would want as a fan. And luckily Neil wanted that too. So we always started with the book and everything we loved about the book, and anytime we could bring an image in or a line of dialogue from the book that would lend itself well to being dramatized in this way, we always did. And anytime we didn't, anytime we did something different, it was in the interest of expanding the story, and because TV allows you to do that. So we really used the book as our, Sandman has made people fall in love with it for 30 plus years, and so we were very clear with all of the streamers when we pitched it to them. The problem with all of these previous Sandman adaptations has been that they've tried to make it something that it isn't.
Sure.
And if you buy this, if you want us, we are going to we are going to give you Sandman. And Netflix was very keen to do that as well.
That was, our unique selling point.
Right.
When we pitched Sandman to all of the networks that could have put it out, all of the streamers, and they pitched themselves to us, which happened at the same time of why we wanted them. We were very clear that yes, for 30 years people have been trying to make a Sandman movie and failing. What we have to bring to this, which none of those other things had, is a world in which we can put the comic onto the screen,
Right.
and a world in which I'm here part of this. Every other thing regarded me as that irritating guy who wrote the comic book, and so let's cut him out, and now let's make our exciting, power-busting Morpheus with big muscles who hits people a lot.
Well, you said that in writing this, it felt like you were writing it again, kind of for the first time, and modernizing it again for runs. What were some of the biggest, I guess, challenges for you in making you feel comfortable that you got it right again?
I think the biggest challenge was actually making sure that it was still Sandman. I think we were incredibly lucky in a lot of ways that the original Sandman was kind of ahead of its time. So there was less to do than we thought. When we didn't have to retool it as we modernized it.
Right.
What we had to do was mostly just clean it up a little bit.
Sure.
Spit on a Kleenex and rub the dirt off its face, and then just sort of occasionally fix a hairstyle. But there wasn't as much. We were all on the same page. David Goyer, Alan and I, and then the writers, and then the production designers, everybody was a fan. Everybody loved Sandman. Everybody wanted to put that thing onto the screen. And we just looked at it as having this wonderful additional thing of, great, so if we're doing it in 2022, let's do it in 2022.
Sure.
And how would we have done it if we'd done it then? John Cameron Mitchell as Hal. In the comics, we never go and see Hal singing, because somebody singing in a comic is kind of a bit dull, because it's not really, comics aren't really designed for singing.
Sure.
But the idea that we can now bring Hal into a nightclub and watch Hal perform as Dolly.
Right.
And then build that into dreams in ways that I would have killed to be able to do in 1989. That for me is the exciting part.
Yeah.
That's where we're like, well, we can do this now.
Right.
We have real people who are going to be moving around and breaking your heart.
Is it an instance now where, obviously not wanting to get too far ahead of ourselves and whatnot, but obviously looking at continuing the story and at the future of what this can be. The Sandman stuff is, tells a great linear story, but is also fairly kind of self-contained in all its parts. And you guys have expanded the universe since. There's even a bit of the prologue stuff kind of pulled in here. So is the idea that you may kind of hop around a little bit, or because like I said, this first season, really kind of stays on the track a bit. And so, what do you think of the larger Sandman universe here?
We currently, Alan and I, with the emphasis here on Alan, are breaking down season 2.
Okay.
And talking about what we would do in season 3. And there is a certain amount of hopping around, because you do not have to deliver all of the information in the sequence it was delivered in the comic. As you say, there's a moment from Sandman Overture that actually we deliver right at the beginning of of episode 1, because we can, and because that's actually useful, and it played into the way that we're shaping the whole story.
And if we were lucky enough to make future seasons, our plan is to make Overture. So it's
okay.
You know, it's we want to cover everything. We want to tell the entire story, but things are moving around a bit. Things are not always where you remember them from the comic, and so far it's been fun.
An example of that actually would be moving the Hobgadling story in the pub into episode 6, because it worked there, and suddenly we had this sort of place where we got to. It felt like Death and Hob got to reinforce each other and create something that's new emotionally, and tells you important things about Morpheus, and makes you cry and makes you laugh and does magic. It's
a roller coaster for sure, and I loved it. I've got to let you guys go. I have one really quick question. Is there a moment that, because before we started rolling ears, we're talking about some of the stuff that you had already seen. Is there a moment in the show that you guys are just waiting for fans to see, so you can kind of experience that reaction with them in the show?
Episode 6.
Yeah.
I just want them. I want to talk to people who've seen episode 6. And I want to find out if they cried.
Perfect. Love it. Alan?
Episode 6, but also, and for me mostly episode 5, which is our diner episode. I love everyone in it. I love the way Jamie Childs directed it. And you have to earn episode 6, so I'm eager for people to experience that diner episode and then be saved by episode 6. So those two for me.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. Like I said, I'm super excited for fans to experience Sandman the same way that I got to. For more on Sandman, Comic-Con 2022, keep it locked into Comicbook.com.